sales is something basically anyone can be really good at.
Yeah, you just have to practice.
And you have to be a little bit disciplined in your practice and not just chase shiny objects. One of the things that I hate is when like reps just go and buy new courses all the time. It's like, guys, you just don't need to do that.
Top performers are kind of on their own island. Most top performers don't care about
If you have a look at the curve on sales in any company, I'm talking like from Microsoft down to a high ticket, right? That top dude is making 20% of all the sales. Like Steph Curry scores a lot of points. You know, he gets the opportunities, he makes the opportunities, and he puts the ball in the hole. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Coffee is for Closers. So we have a very special person here. We have a new dad. Well, a fourth time new dad.
Yeah, exactly. Almost to my starting five.
Yeah. You're so from Utah.
Yeah, exactly. we may not be LDS, but we're popping them out Utah style.
Exactly, man. Right? You can't let your neighbor who's LDS, have a starting five, and you're over there with a starting four, right?
Exactly.
Unless you
What
got
can I say? I like to win.
Smoked. Like that. Yeah, that's funny, man. Some of those guys got like starting 11, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as often anymore.
It's expensive.
It is expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
It is expensive. So I think four's a pretty common number here, though.
Yeah, two's good for me, man. I'm good. But alrighty. So, had a little bit of a break. I don't know if it interrupted the posting schedule. I think we still got some out, but congratulations. So baby's happy, healthy, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, baby's happy, healthy. The rest of the family is happy, healthy. It was the fourth one was our smoothest birth by far, and
Okay.
so
Yeah.
everything
You
is
seem
going
to have
smooth.
physically recovered well. So well done to you, sir.
Yeah, it was a lot of tough work for me. A lot of tough work for me being that
Yeah.
emotional support. I
Yeah.
had to stay up all night.
Ugh,
Um,
mate, you know
and
what? And when you tell her, she won't be appreciative, right?
no,
She just,
how dare she labor all night?
I, it's
We had the
just
baby at
rude.
like 5 a.m. That was rude.
Ugh, mate, you couldn't even sleep until 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell you what, mate, you're a grinder. You're,
Just grinding. Like just grinding.
yep.
I worked 3 days in that time.
Oh my God, like that. And you tell the women folk, and they just don't understand. I had a look at my YouTube analytics. It's 98.1% men.
I wonder why.
I know. So for the lady that's watching out there, hi, mom. Right?
It's both of our moms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's been watching for a while. Yeah, even before you were on. All right. Well, okay. Super valuable content as always. All right. So today we're going to be talking about, I guess we're going to be talking about, what we're doing, Sniper Insurance. I'll probably give some updates on what I've been doing over at the, over at my team at Committed Coaches, and then you have your own team at Committed Coaches as well, and they're battling it out like two angelic, two angelic warriors, right? Fighting it out for first place. Well, not at the moment, but we will be. Yeah, and then I just wanted to go over, sort of some things that I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of tremendous amount of instability in the high ticket world. I'm still in the back end of a lot of offers. I see some good opportunities, I really do, but what I see is a lot of opportunities is a lot of blaming the sales reps, for lack of branding. Right? And just overall I see some difficulties. I'm seeing people with the businesses that have brand are just dominating. So it actually got a really, really good business. It's in Australia. It's around sort of like banking and stuff like that, and like mortgages. Great guy, and we were having a conversation. He was like, "Oh, our lead cost has doubled," and I was like, "Well, yeah, because like you're spending more on ads. So like you're spending more. We're growing the sales team. We've grown it from 2 people to now it's 8 people. Right? We have a setting team in there now. Like it's just." Man, this is just the cost of doing business. I said, but you have a return of 23 to 1. You know,
Pretty good.
I was like, that's phenomenal, mate. So like, you have an ATM, you have a big red button, you just push as many times as you want. He's like, yeah, but it's doubling. And I was like, yeah, and it's going to continue to do so until the point where it no longer makes sense, or you figure out that thing. But like, it's not an infinite growth machine unless you start.
Pretty normal.
Yeah, I was like, unless you start, if you want to keep that down, you've got to start doing brand, right? You've got to start like. If you've got a circle like this, right, and that's the people that you're asking for money, the people like this have to be getting value. the moment that those circles converge, your CAC, your cost of acquisition, kind of skyrockets, right? And it's like you're gonna chase it forever. And so I was like, so, we have a couple of options and, you know, um, I was like, I think we should do this, this, and this for content. We should do this. And he's like, oh, okay. So like, yeah, so we'll do that like during the sales call. So during the sale, I was like, no, no, no. Stop thinking about making money. Start thinking about giving value, you know? And he was really
Yeah.
receptive to it. And so he's like, oh, like that little switch of like, oh, okay, I've got to put money into things that don't make me money now so that I can make either the same money for the same price later, which is like doesn't feel like a payoff, but it is, or
Yep.
or I start creating like long-term buyers. And I was telling him, I was like, okay, man, so at Dialer, we book 4 to 6 sales calls a day with zero marketing. We have no ad spend, we have no SEO, we had the website built,
Value.
and it's just like people are coming in from value. So if a marketing company were to come to me telling me that they could get me $10 book calls, I would go, I don't care. I get $0 book calls. So unless you can beat that, like,
Yep.
right? And so, and like, it's not that we're doing anything special. Our show up rate, I looked at the numbers, 200 book calls, 198 shows. We don't have reminders going out, right? And
Crazy.
yeah, but it's like, it also just goes to show, oh, it's probably not the process. It's just that people want to show up.
It's
It's,
definitely the process. It's all those reminders.
I was just like they're like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I go, "Well, they opt in on the website, they get redirected to a Calendly, and then they book in, and then they get redirected to a YouTube video." Now, the YouTube video is like just an explanation of the product, right? Now,
Yep.
I do know what I'm doing. Like YouTube is a retargeting masterpiece. So like the moment you get someone to watch anything on your YouTube channel, if they watch it, which it would behoove them to if they're booking in a call, and like that's like peak interest, you know what I mean?
Makes
Um,
sense.
then YouTube will automatically just retarget them,
Oh, okay. So
right?
then they start seeing more of your stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if people know that, right? But now you do. So like it's a really good tool. I don't know, like if you've ever gone into like, the closing code, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them were unlisted videos on YouTube that I just embedded. What that did is like
Yep.
it made me an audience of people, like, so it made my YouTube like really high value in turn, like from a YouTube perspective. And so like if you have a look at like my revenue per 1,000 views, it's astronomical, like comically
Yeah.
high. I would say it's probably 100 to 150 times higher than the average. Like,
Yep.
like,
But
and
it's
I've
because of
shown,
all the value you give out.
yeah, but also the demographic is Americans, Canadians, and Australians, right? Like I don't have any Turkish. There's no India. There's nothing. It's like most people's channels are like mostly. So even though my channel is like say 12, 13,000 subs, it's the equivalent of 150,000 because I don't have anyone that's not in my demographic. It's 100% core demographic, right? And it's because I speak in technical terms and I don't simplify my language,
Yeah, so it's
right?
only the right people that are watching your content versus trying to
Exactly.
serve the masses.
Exactly, right? Which is why, we can put a link in our YouTube, which is in there now, and you can go and you can apply for Sniper Insurance. And we have hundreds of people that, go through there and apply to work for us. And then we scream at them, if you're lazy, don't come in,
Yes. Yes.
which is the cultural, we're gonna get this, fuck off, right?
Yeah, if you're lazy, I don't think we're the people for you.
No, no, definitely not. It's been really interesting. But let's kind of go through that. So, anyway, so actually I'll go back. So I'm seeing that instability and I'm seeing that the businesses that are willing to make that shift or are willing to, do that are doing really, really well. And like they're, even though advertising costs are creeping up enormously for most businesses, so therefore like the barrier of entry of what you have to be skill wise in order to be like a successful rep, I think is quite high. And the commissions are significantly lower. Like commissions are usually now around 7 to 9 from what I'm seeing.
That's gone down.
Well, it used to be like 20. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
remember there's a video on my YouTube like you're not worth 20%, right? And I
Yep.
stand by that. Like, um,
Yeah.
But
That's a big percentage.
dude, it's crazy. Like, but the reason why that was available is because advertising was cheap. And so like now that 10%'s just gone to Mark Zuckerberg, right? That like from 10, 20 to 10. But now it's like as well, because close rates overall are down. Like I'm seeing a lot of businesses, and this isn't whether I'm involved or not, that are well below 20% average close rate,
Wow.
right?
I actually wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
Do you, and you feel like it's just because of these things, like the marketing's getting a little bit harder, and if you don't have a good organic brand, then
I
just with
think
inflation, or what do you feel like is causing this?
Well, I think close rate is like a lagging indicator, which has a bit to do with the skill set of the rep, but it has a lot to do with the marketing. Like me and you could take a team of people and we could double their close rate overnight if we just made it really hard to get on a sales call, right? So what I think has happened is with the increasing cost of advertising is causing advertising departments to have to create less friction to get in, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like
Yeah, because you want to keep the cost down.
I was at Cole Gordon's event in Cabo. And they were saying like the cost of advertising is basically doubled, right? And so, they've managed to keep really good margin, and Cole's really good at what he does, right? And they've managed to keep really good close rates, but they do really intense training. Cole really knows how to train salespeople, right? And then like he has a good brand with lots of content, and you know what I mean? Like people
Yep.
know who he is. He's like the big boy in the space. I don't think anyone has a bigger business coaching besides maybe Hormozy, right? Um,
Yeah,
but he has like 650 people in his coaching, and one of his programs is $68,000 a year, right?
that's a decent amount.
I'm the only person to ever be allowed a payment plan. So I demanded a 12 pay. I'm
Just
the
for the
only person
concept of it.
I'm the only person to ever get it. They do one, two, and three. But it was funny because like the sales rep, Tyler, he's a nice guy. I just bullied him. Like just bullied him hard. And like they've watched the call, and like I refuse to get on camera because I walk around and I refuse to get on camera. I refuse to answer certain questions. I just fucking
You're just having
it's a
fun.
nightmare. He goes to me and he goes, hey, I know who you are, so we won't go through the whole process. I go, you probably should. Like that. That's how it started off. You
You
probably should.
probably should.
And then,
Yeah, his heart had to have just dropped into his
oh yeah,
right into his stomach, like, oh
welcome,
shit.
welcome to the Thunderdome, bitch. We're doing this for real. I don't really know if this is. I was giving him objections and shit, like really trying to just spin him around. And then he's like, "Yeah, we don't really do payment plans." I was like, "Well, then you don't get my fucking money. So you got to pick one, dude. Do you want to get my money or do you not want my money?" I was just railing him. Um, anyway, so I got a 12 pay. I said that I think I had value just being there, right? So I thought they were getting a discount. Um,
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but anyway, I was there, and like people, like the cost of advertising is really increased. So like they have so many channels, and they have like they're doing like liquidating offers. They've never really done much phone number stuff before, so they're now on dialer, and we're like setting up like webinar purchase and like what happens to purchasers, non-purchasers, different dialing cadences, stuff like that. Specifically because like phone numbers are just still cheap and easy to get. But to
Yep.
push people further down a funnel is not easy. And so like there's a really, unless you can convert that at a pretty high rate, like you're going to struggle to, find a sales ticket that I think, makes sense. And so, and even places that we know really well, you see reps just not lasting very long. And it's because like they
Yeah.
don't, if I'm gonna pay $300 a book call and you don't close them, like I'm kicking you out, man. So, you
You
know,
have to.
where there was that consolidation of, I think, businesses that started happening about maybe 2 years ago, where like, the strongest brands rose to the top big time. I think that's happening in the sales space where it's like, if all you can do is handle objections, or if all you can do is fucking mindset frame people into buying who are realistically pretty ready to buy. If the only thing
Yeah.
stopping them from buying is like a little bit of fear, that's a buyer,
Pretty good lead.
right?
That's a pretty good
Like,
lead.
so yeah.
So it's
But like,
almost like if you're an individual sales rep and you've been wondering like what the hell is going on with this offer, like if you've been on there for a while and they don't have a good brand, it's like it all makes sense.
yeah, exactly. It's getting harder to close. The marketing is getting more inconsistent. the business owner is acting like a crazy person. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
like, you know, like I've had that many conversations with business owners where it's like, no, but like they gave us the phone number. They're amazing lead. Like, no, no, it's probably not. Like, you don't want to
Yep.
be the guy that blames the lead, but you do have to be conscious that a lead is not a lead. Like, if someone's just putting their name, phone number, and email for a lead magnet, like that person is not an SQL, and they probably should not be sold really fast. You know what I mean? Like, but
Yep.
if someone's gone through and done a website inquiry and booked a call, there's a probably a pretty high level of intent there. But if you try to shorten that sales cycle down so much, right? Like, especially for
Yep.
like info space products, fuck man, like all you're gonna do is burn leads. And I was at that Hormozy workshop the other week, and he sort of put it in a pretty good way. And he was like, if you're doing direct response marketing, and if you look at like people who require high information and lower information to buy, right? Like me and you were like low information buyers. We're like, yeah, makes sense, let's go, right? And direct response is sort of speaking to more low information buyers because like it's trying to do everything quickly. And so you're only talking to like a small sliver of the population that has seen a
Yep.
problem, identified it, wants a solution, and wants it now and is ready to buy, right? That's what you're fighting over. And he reckons it's like 3% of the market. So if
Yep.
you don't have that brand stuff out there, then it's really difficult. Now, the cool thing about
This is
insurance,
why I always did
yeah.
insurance.
The
This
cool
is
thing about
exactly why I
insurance
always
is
did
that
it.
like the world has done the nurturing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. As you talk about all of this, like I don't know that much of it because like this is exactly why I chose insurance.
yeah, because
You
you're
know.
smarter. You're smarter than me.
Yeah. Yeah. I already knew that. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're finally recognizing it. Because high ticket actually was very tempting for me, particularly when I was first in the training program with you guys.
Yeah.
Um, because I was, when you're on in a training program like that, I'm listening to people that are, and at the time, it was 2021.
Oh, boom
That
time,
was a
baby.
very good year for high ticket. So I was hearing people, and I was listening to their calls, and I was like, this person is garbage, and they were out earning me by 5 times. You
Yeah,
know,
that was the golden era.
so it was very difficult to not go to high ticket, but it was just that sense of like I just had this gut feeling. I was like, hold on, if I go do high ticket, I'm then dependent on somebody else to do the marketing, and referrals are way harder. And I had already seen people in insurance, even though I was new to insurance,
Yeah.
I had already seen and met and I knew multiple people that were making 7 figures a year and did like no prospecting. Like it was all just coming to them via referral. They had been in insurance for 10 years, but I was like, fuck,
Yeah.
I'll do it for 10 years if that's like what I get as the outcome.
Yeah, for sure. You have that little bit of like delayed gratification. And I remember in 2022 and 2023, I was at the seventh level sitting down having conversations, listening to these idiot insurance salespeople bumbling way through making 80 grand a month. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? I was like, I would make $1 million a day. I was like, what is going on? Um,
It's because it's logical. You can follow a pretty logical process and still make sales in insurance.
yeah.
You just can't mess up the sale. I feel
Yeah.
like with insurance, it sells itself, and most of the time the sales reps unsell people.
Yes, I think it's actually having dialer now, right? Because with Sales Sniper, I never really appreciated it because like I did a lot of hustle muscle to get leads through and all that kind of stuff. But we'd always get pretty good lead flow through of just organic businesses. Just they would search the website, opt in. That's where most of our sales came from. But it was like they came right. But with dialer, it's so obvious because it's that times 10x the volume, right? It's, like yesterday we got 7 booked calls, and it was like that's zero, like that's a lot of book calls, right? Most
Yep.
businesses would have to pay $1,500 for that. We paid zero, and
Yep.
so like, but like it's really the product plays such a huge role because like we have a problem in the same way that like if you don't have insurance, you have a problem, right? The problem is you don't have insurance. And so if something happens, then your family's fucked, right? Like that's the issue. Everyone knows it. It's like it's out there in the zeitgeist. Like it's not like a responsible person has insurance, right?
Even if your family's not fucked, like let's say I'm talking to somebody and their kids are well off and their family's not going to be fucked.
Yeah, don't be a burden though.
It's
You know?
it's just baked into society that we feel like a piece of shit for doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, even if
Yeah,
they can
for
afford it
sure.
and they want to, most people don't want their kids to have to do that.
No, and I think that that to me makes total sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like imagine, because you don't want your kids having to deal with a bill, and you're
exactly.
like, like why is this happening? It's
Yeah,
like it's just a level of admin, and
yeah.
well off doesn't mean that you have cash at that moment. Do you know what I mean? Like
No,
so even a $5,000, $10,000 bill can be a real fuck around for someone that has money, depending on when it's coming in, right? And so,
yeah,
yeah. And so, like, having a look at like the product plays such a huge role. I think it was Becker, as Alex Becker has Hyros, and he does investments and stuff like that. And he was saying he will not invest in any company where the offer and the product is not so stupidly good that you're an idiot to not buy it. Because the sales to have to sell that shit is so difficult, you
yeah.
know? That's why one of the reasons why I like for high ticket, I like fitness, right? Because like fitness is like a huge TAM and everyone struggles with it at some point and you can sell them more than once. So like it's not like you need someone to turn 18 every day. It's like no, that person could turn 18, then 25, then 32, then 40, then 49. And they go
Yeah.
through different ebbs and flows of fitness and it's just a net good. If they take some stops, lift some weights and eat healthier, it's a net good, right? Those people could also use insurance, I think, probably, for the most part, right?
Probably. Yeah,
Probably,
definitely.
probably wouldn't hurt, right? Um, but like, and so like when I see it in my own business and I get all these people coming in and I'm not having to do any sales wizardry at all, not a single ounce of it. I don't follow a script. I just ask them what they're using, what problems they're having, and then I just go, do you understand why you're having those problems? And they go, no. And I go, this is why you're having those problems. And I explain in sort of pretty detailed fashion why what they're doing will never work from
It's
a
more logical.
systematic. Yeah. Then I go, this is what I've created. And I go, how does that sound? They go, fuck, that's amazing. And I go, cool, man. So like from here, this is rough pricing, right? We'll have to have another call. I'll go through, make a proposal for you. I book another 30-minute call for like 2 to 4 days later. They all show up, they will buy, it's like, and then, but usually it'll take another 3 weeks to close them, right? Because there's like just logistics and there's integrations and people and all that kind of stuff. But like most people, it's a good 60% of people that you give a proposal to are going to pull the trigger on it. And there's no salesing going on really whatsoever. And they show up to the calls without reminders and they do all this kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, that's because like the product works. Like it fills a gap and they feel confident that the product will work and that they need it. And that's why like insurance is like it's a great like analogous to that because it's like they need it, they want it, right? Like they've put it off and now it's like cool. But the cool thing about that is that like there's no like integrations team that you've got to get with to, kind of get it done. You can just sort of like the salesperson can help massage that thing the whole way through, right?
You don't need as much infrastructure was what always kept me in insurance. There's always a hard way and an easy way to do things. I'm a big believer in doing things the easiest way possible. You get no bonus points for doing things the hard way.
Absolutely.
And so when I look at it, it's like, okay, if the goal is to make as much money as possible and sell things doing that, to
Wait,
do
that's the
that,
goal? Shit.
shit,
I've
I've
been
been doing
fucking
the
this
wrong
whole
thing.
thing up.
Um, something that the way I've always looked at insurance is like if I'm selling something else, I have a pretty limited market in who I can ask for referrals.
Yeah.
Whereas with insurance, kind of like you said, everybody needs it, and we've been baked, like society's been baked to, in a good way, right? That
Yeah.
everybody values it and everybody's open to talking about it. And so, like I've just never seen it in any other industry. I'm sure there's be somebody in the comments that's like, "Oh, I've done it in this industry," but like I've just never seen it in any other industry where you can build a completely referral based business and be making a shit ton of money.
Yeah, well, I think that insurance is the only one where like the commission structure doesn't make any sense until you understand that insurance people stick around for 12 years. You know,
Yep.
like wait a second, how can you get 50% of the first year? Right? It's like so you sell something for 1,200 bucks, you collect 100 and you make $600 commission. Like that doesn't make any sense. And that's
On
why
the
it's
low
like
end.
yeah, and like I see people do these like fucking like oh this is an MLM or a pyramid. It's like no, I was like I understand why people would think that, but I also understand that like it's it's just because they don't understand that like the insurance companies just outsource the sales and marketing. It's the same as alarms, right?
Yep.
You go door knocking alarms. Hey, we'll install a free alarm system. Oh shit. It's like, why would they do that? It doesn't make any sense. It's like because they can sell the monitoring contract for 8x, right? What that alarm system costs to put in. And then that monitoring company doesn't have to do anything but monitoring. And then they just buy contracts. And now they have contracts. Contracts raises EV and they get MRR. They borrowed a lot of money to be able to do that so that they could cash flow negative for 3 years. Like that's what they did, So it's just like, oh, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, and when you sell someone into a $1,200 insurance package, $1,200 a year insurance package, right? That person will likely stay for 12 years. So they're going to pay $15,000, right? Let's just say that,
Yep.
right? And they're going to pay you 800 bucks, whatever, right? And like, oh, that is crazy. Yeah, it's like, yeah, but you're looking at it as a $1,200 sale. If it's 15,000, nobody would blink an eye, right? But the
Yep.
insurance companies have actuaries, and their full-time job is to assess risk tolerance, right? And they have
Yep.
assessed that this is the good way to do it because they don't need sales reps, they don't need training, they don't need HR for it, they don't need to do marketing for it, and all they're doing is they're like they know the numbers will work out.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's
It's
like,
uh
oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
it's just data.
that's why I like when I see these YouTube videos about like, PHP and all these things about like, oh, they're a pyramid scheme. I was like, it's really not. It's just like you just don't understand that they're willing to pay 2 years.
Yeah.
Like they're willing to do that. And then, instead of salaries in a management
Yep.
structure, you have overrides.
Well, I think what creates that is like every insurance company is not created equally, obviously.
Yeah.
And there are plenty, I would say the majority of insurance companies, it's actually really difficult to see success in. Even as
Yeah.
an experienced sales rep that's pretty good.
Okay.
Like I've worked at plenty of insurance companies where I've brought people in that were good reps. They were good reps, making good money in other industries, whether that was door to door or high ticket or whatever. And and it was just difficult for them, and so I think there is something to be said of like, I agree. I don't think it's a pyramid scheme, but sometimes people get in and they're expecting, like they're sold the dream that it's going to be the easiest thing in the world.
For sure. That's a problem.
And yeah, and
I
then they're
think,
like, oh, this is a pyramid scheme. They screwed
yeah.
me over.
I think you
And
gotta, well, if you understand the bell curves of sales anyway, like if you have a look at the curve on sales in any company, I'm talking like from Microsoft down to a
yep,
high ticket, it is like, right, that top dude is making
yep,
20% of all the sales, right? In a team
yeah,
of 50. It's just how
yeah,
it is.
always.
Like Steph Curry scores a lot of points.
Yep.
It's like it doesn't mean that there's an unfair advantage to Steph Curry. He's just way better than everybody else. You know what I mean? So like, he gets the opportunities, he makes the opportunities, and he puts the ball in the hole, and like that's so you combine that with the structure and you get people who just don't really understand sales, they don't really understand how that business operates, and you're like, I can see how from the outside, but like as soon as you put a little bit of critical thinking on it and you go, well, the most successful reps will always be the most successful reps, because like they try harder, they work harder, and they have done the work to be better. Because sales is something basically anyone can be really good at.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you just have to practice and learn
exactly.
it.
And you have to be a little bit disciplined in your practice and not just chase shiny objects. One of the things that I hate is when like reps just go and buy new courses all the time. It's like, guys, you just don't need to do that. Like, you know, we have a new script. Should we do it? Are you doing well on the old script? Yeah. Well, then keep it. I don't care if you scream like Wookiees at people. Like if
Yeah.
it's working, it's working. Like who gives a shit, right? Um, and like if you don't have to be sycophantic about how you do things. You just want to do things in a way that you feel comfortable. And like I was having a meeting with my team. I think actually is the big one. With the other, it's like, hey,
Yep.
if I tell you to do something, but you're doing it and it's working, just ignore me.
No, I won't do it unless you tell me to.
It's like it's like, oh, but they said do this. It's like, is it working? Yeah, keep doing it. Fucking sweet, man. Like, what do I give a shit? Just do what works. Make money. Like, don't lose money because I told you to do something. You know,
So there is the aspect of like, finding somewhere where that the starting path is a little bit easier. You
Oh,
know what
for
I mean? Because
sure.
it's
Yeah.
like if I'm going to go run a 100-meter race, I'd rather run that somewhere that is, like below sea level, right?
Yes.
Weather conditions are good, those sort of things, versus like being
Yeah.
above sea level and stuck in the mud. I'm obviously going to go slower.
Yeah.
And so I think there's just a lot of insurance companies that getting started is really difficult,
Yeah. A lot
right?
of
Like
barriers.
I think I'm fairly good at it. And the company that I started with, there was no leads. And it was all just like work your warm market and try to get referrals out of that. And I was pretty young.
That is
And
tough, especially when you're new.
yeah, I didn't make any sales, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a good opportunity. It gave me the vision, but there has to be that groundwork. And that's why, like, as you and I have worked in insurance over the past couple of years, I've been a fucking pain in the ass and kind of a dick face about like, no, I don't think you understand. Like, this is actually pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Um, and it's because the opportunity is there and anybody can make it work, right? And like people are very wealthy in those kind of models too, but who doesn't want an easier starting path to get to that? We all
Yes.
want to get to the point where we're referral based business.
Yeah.
However,
But you got to get leads to get
you
there.
yeah, you got to get your initial book of clients to start getting referrals out of them. And so, if it's your warm market or like a lot of companies, you're buying your own leads,
Yeah.
and
The
insurance is known for shitty leads.
yeah, the number of people that can just go out there and work a room and get their warm market, like to build their business from scratch, is just a very small percentage of the population.
It's difficult.
Because you have to have had an upbringing,
Yep.
right? Like I could do that because I went to 11 schools,
Yep.
right? And so like all right, cool. Like I know a lot of people, right?
Exactly.
And I'm good at keeping up with people, right? And I'm that going to 11 different schools made me very comfortable in networking environments
Yep.
because like you have to learn that. So I have like a little switch. Like I was at that Cabo event, Cole's event, and I had one of my guys with me. I was like, all right, time to go into fucking like network mode, social whoop like that, right? Social acumen up to 110. I was like, hey,
Yep.
you're going in, fuck, making jokes, talking to people, doing things, getting phone numbers, texting people, find things in common. Like, that's how you do that, right? I went through, I
Yep.
got like, all the sort of largest businesses in the room. I was talking to the owner of them and I had their number. And it's like that, but that's a skill set that you develop. It's also like, comes from like having the trauma of going to 11 schools, right?
Paid for that skill set.
Exactly. Paid for it. Fucking, you can't say anything to me I haven't said in front of a mirror. Right. So, you know, so like it's a rarity though, but I realize that. And like, I didn't, to be honest, like I would have rather have gone to less schools, you know, and if you kind of grew up in a town and you're the same people and you're sort of not comfortable around a lot of people that you don't know, like my wife is that way. She went to the same house, same school, her whole upbringing. Like she can turn it on, but like it doesn't last for 3 hours. It's 30,
Takes way
60
more
minutes.
energy.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes more bandwidth. That's what I really like about what we're doing with Sniper Insurance and why we really planted our flag there, and why I was more on board here than anywhere else that we've ever been is like it's the first company that I've seen in insurance that is marketing the way you're talking about how high ticket should be. Right? They're giving value, 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 and you're selling off of the back end of that.
The sales process is
Every
clever.
Yeah,
When it was
everywhere I've
brewing, I
ever
was like,
seen,
oh, that's
it's like,
clever.
yeah, because it just makes it way easier to get started
Yeah.
versus, the other places that we've seen and like you've seen it.
It's
It's
just call
it's
the
not a very
fuck out
it's
of age
not
leads.
yeah, it's not a very clever process. It's just blow the phones up,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
wild.
it's difficult.
And I can see the data because we have a few of those guys on the system, and a lot of it's like, it's hundreds and hundreds of dollars a day. Um,
Yeah,
and just pounding phones, which again, I don't have a problem with, to be honest. Like I've done that for a long time. However, like unless you figure that out quickly, you're not going to hang around because no one's going to do 3 months of that. You might do 3 weeks of it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But like,
exactly.
it's just, and then when you crack it and you smash it out of the park, again, I would be shocked if someone did a year, right? Even being
Yeah,
really, really good at it, because then what they're going to want to do is build a team. right? Which makes sense because that's how you can make more money. But they are not, they are going to expect everyone to do what they did, and it won't happen because they are the unicorn.
Yeah, I know I was that guy,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Like
like,
I did that and I
yeah,
got good. But even when I was really good, I was still making a lot of dials,
yeah,
you know? And it's people don't recognize, like when I was before I got good, let's say I like my when I was like an average skill set, making 10 to 15 grand a month, I was still making like 6 to 700 calls a day. I
yeah,
was
it's wild.
I was making a lot of calls,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
wild.
and I did it for a long time and I ended up getting really good at it. So I wasn't making that many. But even when I was really good, I was still making a few hundred calls a day. And
Yeah.
you're right, most people don't. It's a grind.
Well, I mean, just like, I remember I've spoken to high ticket dudes like that. Like when you're doing, let's say you're doing age leads final expense, bro,
Yeah.
that's hard mode selling.
Yeah.
Like proper fucking hard mode, right? You're like, oh,
Yeah.
this lead's been called by 80 other sales reps. They're on Social Security and they opted in 3 years ago. Wait, excuse me?
Even a
What?
month ago was pretty tough.
It's fucking crazy. Like it can be done. 100% it can be done. And like great way to start. Like if I was going to get my son to like just like hate sales, that's to do, right? But like, it's like, and I talk to high ticket dudes and I'm just like, yeah, but like your guys opted in like yesterday. These guys opted in 3 years ago and they're making sales. So what are you doing? You know? So like but like again, that model works, but it is really, really difficult. And that's why, like, when we tried
A
stuff in the
numbers game.
past, it was on
It's a
that. It was just like you're dealing you opt everybody out so quickly. And it's like it's fair enough because it's like, man, I don't want to call old people that are gonna scream at me and tell me to fuck
Yeah.
off and that I'm a scammer. It's like, yeah, man, I get it. That's like you're not weak for thinking that. Like you just don't want to have to do it that way. And then when we
Yeah.
came into this one and we had this sort of opportunity and everything laid out in front of us, we're like, I think both of us went, oh man, that's so clever.
Well, it make
Like,
the data starts to make sense, right? Like
yeah,
the retention, not the success, the retention in the other model is 7% make it past the first year. And
yeah, it's
here
crazy.
it's 40.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
It's a significant difference.
Yeah,
Especially like 40% retention in any sales is pretty good.
yeah.
But when you consider that most people are recruiting people that don't have sales experience, right?
That's as good as a retention as a salaried sales position.
Yeah. And they're recruiting people that don't have like they're recruiting the people, their friends and family to come and work with them. They go to the bar and they recruit the bartender, the Uber driver,
Yeah.
and that's the retention. That's bananas.
And all you have to do is go to the link in the description of this YouTube video and click that,
Yeah.
right?
And maybe you'll fall into that 40%.
Maybe you will. And if you don't, I don't fucking care.
Unless you're lazy. If you're lazy, I recommend not clicking that link
Yes, please
because
don't. If you're lazy and you're like, no, stay in high ticket until that dies. Right?
we're not going to make you feel good about yourself, I promise.
No, 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 that's not our motto. Right?
No,
Yeah.
no.
You look in the mirror every day with a win or a loser, and you got
Yeah.
to decide which one you're gonna be in.
Well, I
Um,
tell everybody, that like our vision for Sniper Insurance when we created it was creating a place where top performers, because on almost everywhere I've ever been, I think you experience the same thing. Like the top performers are kind of on their own island, right?
yeah,
And it's most top performers don't care about the loneliness, right? Like the most top performers don't really give a shit about being quote unquote lonely, right? But at the same time, it's still more fun to do things with your friends, and so
exactly.
like the environment that we're already creating and it's manifesting itself very, very quickly is an environment where top performers feel like this is where they're supposed to be, and the people that aren't top performers, we don't necessarily have to fire them usually. They just leave because it's uncomfortable. It's
Yeah,
like when you're surrounded by 60 people that are fucking crazy about it and they have a top performance mindset. If you don't, it makes you feel like shit about yourself, so you leave.
yeah. And it's funny, right? Like I remember I was talking to a guy the other day, and he was like, I put him in touch for like a job. Like he was like, hey, do you know any gigs? And I was like, yeah, he's in the UK. I was like, yeah, speak to this guy. And he got on the call and he asked the guy, what's his OTE, right? He's
First
like,
question.
I was like. And so the guy told me, and I messaged him back, and I was like, "Hey man, like I'm not giving you any more of those because like you can't ask that question of me, you know." It's like, "Oh, but I want to make sure it's a serious opportunity." And it's like, mate, you're a sales guy. Like Steph Curry does not go to a team and go, "How many points can I score?" Because Steph Curry scores points.
Yeah. Well, it's like people that ask, what's the average person making? And I'm like, I understand that you want to get a grasp of it, but it's like,
Yeah.
what are we talking about? Like it doesn't. What I always tell people is, I'm like, I can fill you full of bullshit and tell you that the average person is making 10 grand like everybody else does in this space, or I can just be real and tell you like, hey, the top people are making all the money, and the people at the bottom aren't making very much money but usually the people at the bottom aren't fucking trying.
Oh, 100%, man. Like they're just, which is fine. It's like
They're just there.
everyone's got to find their time when they want to do shit. And like if now's not the time, it's fine. Just like don't be here. And that's not like you can come back. It's
Yeah.
like, but just don't be here right now because like it just unless you're gonna be like a someone that adds something, then like just don't come.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, sweet. I gotta say that's cool. Good to chat to you, buddy. And speak to you soon.
See you guys on the next episode.